首先欢迎大家来参加这一次国立清华大学北美基金会举办的焦点校友访谈。我们请到公共系84级的叶月文学姐，她是普渡的教授，工业工程师的教授。那其实我在荧幕上看到很多熟悉的名字啊，这个现在不方便一一介绍，待会我们可以对，待会我们会有时间哈，那希望大家能够开镜头，我们一起有合照，然后照相。那这边是这次活动的海报我就不多在我们这个宣传里面都已经这个大家一定看过，我就不多讲哈。那首先一些关于这个活动，需要大家配合的就是如果您的是电脑或手机这个上线的话，请先麦克风静音。那我们最后会有这个问答的时间，到时候您可以直接提问，或者在这个演讲当中，如果您想到问题怕忘记，可以打在右边的或者底下的 chat 留言里面我们这个到时候会帮您提出来，或是请您亲自问。那如果可以方便的话，用这个 Zoom 的 rename 功能，将您的中文名字清华的系级别，或者是您是非校友，但是是清华的朋友或亲友也可以这个注明一下。那这个在我们的讲员这个演讲部分结束，进入问答之前，我们会邀请大家打开摄像头，一起来照相留念。那底下免责声明呢，这个就是完全今天这个是我们讲员他分享的内容，是他的这个专业那这个活动会后，我们会将这个录影剪辑之后放在基金会的 YouTube 频道上。那这个在那参加就是代表就是说同意基金会使用我们这个今天的录影，那有您在当中的录影或者是这个相片。好，那这个是国立清华大学北美基金会是一个组织，有组织，然后大家都是义工性质的团队是为了让北美的校友连结感情一起回馈母校成立的一个组织。那这个是基金会已经是一个合法非营利组织，这个透过基金会给清华的捐款可以获得 IRS 的节税这边这个已经成立了，从2019年基金会成立以来，到目前已经回馈母校有许多的这个在各方面不论是人力财力有许多的回馈。那欢迎各位校友继续的来加入这样子的一个行动。那这一页呢，如果您需要建议您这个就是截屏或是照相。这里是北美基金会在各个平台上面的这个QR code。然后我们也有一个这个国立清华大学北美同学会的 Line Group， 这需要invite only 需要邀请加入的。那如果您需要请透过这个我们活动通知的 email info@ntu-na-foundation.org 来这个通知我们。好，接下来就不多说，我把时间交给我们易教授易学姐，她很谦虚说英文，因为待在美国久了，中文不太这个灵光她会演讲会用英文进行。那我相信大家应该是没有问题。那提问还是可以用中文这是没有问题的。好，那我现在就把时间交给易学姐。Okay, stage is yours.
Welcome everyone. 我先很抱歉，我要用英文做这个 presentation， 因为我的中文要演讲比较困难一点，所以但是我们那个 Q&A 可以 switch back and forth。OK， hope that is okay with everyone. It's great to see everyone on this group. It's the first time I actually get together with all the alumni from Tsinghua, so it's very special for me. So today I'm going to maybe share some of the work that I have done, pushing sort of industrial engineering territory in the sense that going beyond the traditional manufacturing production system. So I'm going to start with sort of a very short story. One of the things that most people are not aware that there are over 700 million people in the world without basic water access. We're talking about drinking water. So this is one of the grand challenge in the world that there are many countries as well as different regions suffering for a lack of clean water. So in some of the innovation that, being an engineer to try to be a problem solver, there's a lot of solution has been proposed, especially trying to help developing country. And this is one of the innovation actually receive a lot of recognition and also receive a lot of awards and also receive a lot of money, a lot of funding. And what the idea is, basically, an engineer basically sees that when they visit the village and in the rural area, they use the hand pump to pump water. And I think, growing up in Taiwan, when I was a kid, I remember that time when, my parents would have to use the hand pump to get water from the well. So that is a very common mechanism that is very good at pumping water, but you can only do that for individual. So what they were thinking is, what if we could have a water tower and then you will be able to have water to be able to deliver on demand all the time. Now, the power to be able to pump the water to the water tower is not clear because electricity is not commonly available in those areas. So they watch the kids play in the park. And so they see, oh, well, maybe we can use the power of the kids that pushing the toys around and use that power to pump the water to the tower. And then from there, you can just have a tap water. Basically, you can use the water much easier. So this actually receive a lot of awards from different foundations and then also get a lot of funding to implement it in Africa in several different regions. Now, one of the problems that people later on find out, there's a lot of problems in the supply chain as well. Maintenance is an issue. Once you have deployed some innovation, some of the products, you have to have a supply chain to support the maintenance of that particular product. And they didn't have that. So that caused actually a lot of disruption. So at some point, they actually stopped implementing new product deployment and just focusing on maintaining what they already have or already have installed. But more problem that occur is they find out some of the region, there are no kids playing outside. And they found out, so mostly it's older women who are carrying the water for the family. So you find the grandma or, elderly actually try to push the merry go around, basically the toys, try to get water because the water didn't get pumped to the tower and they already lost the hand pump. So basically they lost what they had before and they have this installed that is very difficult to use. So I just want to start with this, sort of plant the seed of thoughts of what are the innovation, when we try to solve problems. There are a lot of unintended consequences and also the bias of coming from our background that may have impact people, especially when we do work to support more vulnerable population. I want to just kind of point out that sometimes a good intent doesn't necessarily have a good impact. So my name is Yuehwern, 公公八四级. So I'm honored to be elected as a National Academy of Engineering this year as a member. So I'm celebrating the whole year. So I know this news until February, and then I just kind of continue celebrating. The formal induction is happening in October in DC. So I'm really looking forward to that event. Just one of the rare things I ever imagined I can receive. So here's my journey. This is the club that I'm very involved. I was in the choir. I played the piano. I am a terrible singer, so don't ask me to sing. When I do get to sing, I'm an alto. I don't have a good voice, and I'm always off the pitch. So I'm never like, so don't ask me to sing. But I can play the piano. I'm very quick on reading music sheets, so I can just read and then play. And also, I was the president of the piano club. So we've done a lot of performance. And during the 4 years, if you overlap with me, you probably have seen me perform with one of the classmates in chemistry, on railing. He played the violin, I'll play piano. We'll do a lot of duet in the concert. So I graduated from Tsinghua and went to medicine basically immediately. So I, had an advisor, Arnie Thiessen, who no longer there. He retired. So that's I spent about 4.5 years. I've graduated in December, and then immediately after that, I joined Purdue as an assistant professor. This journey was kind of rough in the sense that I'm the first woman in in my school. The first woman got tenured, and the first woman become full professor. Currently, I'm still the only woman full professor on my faculty, and of course, because I'm the first woman of everything, so I'm kind of first woman become the chair professor. So it's an interesting journey that yeah, I would say I have a lot of story to tell. So, but that's where I stay. At 36 years, I'm still here, approaching 37. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my work. My work I kind of spread out in many different areas, and I'm going to skip the one that's more traditional industrial engineering in the manufacturing setting. I'm going to talk about some other areas that I get involved and have sort of shift my work and my thinking to sort of kind of push me and challenge me throughout my career. It's always has something new that I have to learn, and also looking at the real world problem and how do we tackle that, finding a solution that actually will have a positive impact. So very sort of briefly on the framework, I think this could apply to technology, innovation, invention, policy. When we talk about society, it could be policy. So there's always some kind of design of how we imagine what work. Even like computer, there's a imagine how computer will be used by the user. Then there's work be done. So that means we have designed something and then we have implemented, and how that work was done is usually in the physical space or is some kind of operation, meaning a process and operation among people, organization. But this two never have a perfect match. So we all understand if you have a design, have an intent of this is what you want, and this is what actually happened. So there's always a difference between design of work as imagined and also the work as done, meaning how execution, implementation, how it's done. This never have a perfect match. Almost everything, no matter how perfect the things was designed. So this is known. This is not a new thing. Now, how do we actually try to make things better is we actually try to measure and sense, collecting some kind of data to understand how the work was done. So we try to describe how the work was done. So using that information, we will be able to redesign, because we have to pivot and try to modify, make improvement, or have to shift and understand the problem better. So this is kind of a loop that there's a design, there's execution, implementation, and then there's a capture somehow to understand what the physical space was done, and using that data, try to make system improvement. Now, this data that we capture quite often is in cyberspace. Now, some is documented on paper. Nowadays, I think data mostly in the cyberspace. But between these two, in terms of what the physical space in the cyberspace, whether that's how truly capture and be able to use that information to improve the performance of the system, that's the space I worked on. So I do a lot of this kind of work in terms of developing different tools or methods or model, try to improve how the real-time decision-making in the complex system. This can be involve human factor in terms of human experts involved. It could be a digital model. It could be a combination of that. And it could be an optimization model. And it will use AI, statistic-based or machine learning, large language model nowadays is very popular. I mean, they're all different kind of model that can combine with human in the loop. And then at the end of the day, it's really about how humans make decisions and how the operation physical space will work and whether this can actually help us improve. Now, what we found is quite often there is a gap between what the work is done and what we think the work was done because the data we capture are not complete. So in some sense, we say the model, no, none of the model is a good model, but some model is useful. Why is it useful? If you ask the right question and you get the right kind of data, you might be able to use that for insight. But most of the model are not a true reflection of the physical space. So there's a huge gap between that. So I have worked in this particular framework in using this framework for manufacturing, supply chain, and also healthcare system. Talk about my journey. I basically become a full professor and I spent my very first year of sabbatical, spent a whole year in the VA hospital to learn about healthcare. So before that, I published everything in real-time scheduling in manufacturing setting. And then I spent a year in the hospital because I wanted to learn how could we do better in the healthcare system and basically get involved with the healthcare engineering. And from there, I have a chance to go to Kenya and work with a physician on global health. So basically, I went to Kenya and helped them to deliver food for HIV patients. And they, basically I helped them design the infrastructure, the hardware, as well as the software. I wrote the IT system for them to track exactly how much they need to prepare the food for which patient located in different location and how much had to be shipped out. So basically entire planning, an entire organization is using the IE principle. And I kind of transitioned from there, then I get involved with international development. And so I work in several countries on different type of project. I will talk a little bit about that later on in my talk. So I'm going to use 3 different case studies, kind of give a little bit example of how this framework helped me throughout my career to think about how do we do better in terms of understand the system, understand the interaction in all the components, and understand the gaps, and then be able to identify them and fix them. So this is one of the example in healthcare. Vancomycin treatment, some of you probably are very familiar with, is a very popular antibiotics. And I do this work particularly for pediatric patients, meaning for kids. One of the reasons I will kind of go into that a little bit, this is collaborate with Children's Hospital, both in Wisconsin and Indianapolis. And one of them, the top person is my former PhD student, and then the others are scientists, physicians, and pharmacists. So vancomycin is a drug we typically will use infusion pump to deliver that medication. So to be able to control how much dose you use is depending on the weight of the patient, or the reason is weight of the patient is because weight is a good indicator of the volume of the blood in the human body. So they use weight to estimate how much blood you have in your body. So they measure the weight, and they also need to understand each one of us, once we have a medication, a chemical basically go into a bloodstream, our body will try to get rid of it because it's a foreign object. So your body will get rid of it. Your kidney and it will process it, liver will process it, it will get rid of it. Now, every one of us have a different rate of getting rid of that chemical. Some are very fast, some slower. Now, this particular medication is really about maintaining a concentration in the bloodstream to be effective. So there's a range of the concentration need to reach to the body in the bloodstream so that you can fight the bacteria. If you're lower than that level, then bacteria will win. If you're over that range, it become toxicity, become toxic, meaning it will kill your kidney. Okay, so this kind of drugs is like, if too little, the bacteria will win. So the patient will not get better. But if you get too high, you become toxic. You just kill the kidney. So your kidney will fail. So that's the first symptom when the medicine is too much, too strong, is your kidney will go. So it's very sensitive. Try to maintain that range, and knowing each person have a different rate of processing that chemical. So you kind of need to do blood tests to see how fast this deterioration is. Now for pediatric, why I work on this one on pediatric is because baby is very small. So their blood is very small amount. Any changes in dosing, it will have a very strong effect on babies. I mean, adult, we have a little more tolerance because of the volume of the blood more. But for babies, this is very sensitive. So that's why I focus on this particular work. And you'll notice their previous study already done a lot of different analysis from records, from observation study. 72% of the therapy has major safety events, meaning either they underdose or they overdose. And 72% is all about timing and monitoring. So what I did is I actually work with them, with the pharmacists and everything, try to understand how is the whole process work. And I have students basically spend weeks in the hospital, shadow each person. And first we have to understand exactly who are involved. And it turns out the physicians involved, the pharmacist is involved, the nurses involved, the laboratory is involved. So there are 4 different group of people involved. Plus there's EHR, which is electronic medical record that US use. I think in Taiwan, they also have the medical record in computer. So they try to use the computer to exchange information. Now, I just want to, maybe this is a very complex process, like every person is in charge of something, but when they come together, they all rely on the record, share on the medical record. Now, one of the things I want you to pay attention to is the nurse is on the bottom. There are 2 purple boxes in this graph. First one is they will scan the bag of vancomycin, the drugs. And the second purple box is about when you will start the infusion on the pump. Basically, they push the button and say the drug will start to deliver. Now, let's look at what nurses have to do in these 2 things, is scan the bag, hang the bag, and then start the pump so the medicine delivered to the patient. It turns out between these 2 purple boxes, I don't know, you can see in the right side, right here, and on the bottom, there are many, many steps between these 2. But when you scan the bag, in the record, it says it started. But the physical start did not happen until that many steps have happened later. So there's a huge difference between what the cyberspace data is telling us versus what truly actually happened to patient. So that's where we have identified those issues cause some problems because you have gaps. So in the first line is the medical record. That's where it starts, is when you scan. And then it will do projection to say this is half-hour infusion, so half-hour later is done. But in fact, in reality, is first of all, there's a gap between you scan until you start the infusion. The infusion sometimes as late as 1 hour later. So the timing wasn't even right. And in between, sometimes they have to stop the infusion because they may add other things to it, or they have problems. So there's a lot of interruption in between. So the end time is not even close to what the record said. So why does it matter? Well, this is the graph sort of showing you sort of general idea. The medicine got infused, so it will go to a peak, and then you will start to deteriorate because the body tried to get rid of it. Now, every one of us have a different curve. So what we do is we will use a blood draw. You draw blood, and then you test it to see how much level you have left. then they will draw that curve for that patient and use that to decide how to manage the dosing for the remaining one, because you should have multiple dose. If you do it too early, meaning you think it started, but it didn't start, that means you drop the blood a little bit too early. That means the reading will be much higher than you expected. So then the physician will look at it, or pharmacist will look at it and say, well, this is too high. So that means this patient doesn't have a good metabolism to get rid of the medicine. So we will reduce the dosing, or we will reduce the frequency. So that it actually affect the clinical decision, and that potentially will affect the outcome, whether the drug actually can be effective. So those are the things that we have identified, and I have published some papers on this. And we have done several different things. Also, we look at the laboratory testing, have some consistent issue in terms of accuracy or understanding the variance, and also look at different treatment, what population actually benefit and not necessarily benefit the other population. So this is a kind of a difference that you see, the decision making for the human actually based on the data that is actually not reflecting the physical world. And you're going to find this in parallel on many, many different applications. So those are just some example of the publication if you're interested. So the second case I want to talk about is the humanitarian supply chain. Now, what this is about, when you have an emergency, let's say you have a disaster. This is my collaborator, one of my PhD students, and one of the collaborators from Catholic Relief Services. This is Catholic Relief Services is one of the NGO focusing on humanitarian assistance. So basically, what we're doing is, this is one example. Currently, there are more than 300 million people need humanitarian assistance and protection. Now, this could be coming from, they have internal conflict, war, or just natural disaster, very long drought. This particular case is a Syrian refugee camp in the border of Jordan. That camp still here today. This picture was taken in 2013. This is one of the largest refugee camp. Now, to give you a scale, this is taken from the helicopter. So this is a car. You can see the street, and there's people, there's cars. So you can see the scale of how huge this area is. And this is not unique. This is actually have many of them. All this refugee camp need humanitarian assistance. And there's a lot of other things happen here. It's also very difficult to understand the scale, because there are many countries has this kind of refugee camp, but also in emergency response, like there's earthquake or there's a flood, all this will need assistance. So what we do is people will donate money, but money doesn't help the local people. You need those commodities. For example, food, water, clothing, shelter, cleaning supply, medical supply. So there's a lot of those materials are very important for people to have. Now, those items sometimes not available, quite often not available locally. So you need a lot of logistics, try to transport those items to the areas to support the people in need. So this is sort of a quick diagram of how humanitarian supply chain look like. Basically, you have a donor on the left-hand side giving money or giving in-kind donation, and you go to the NGO. If it's money, then the NGO will have to find a vendor to purchase the item so they can actually support the local area. Once they have procured the item, they will have to ship, basically go through the supply chain, go to different company, find a transport, and then go into the area. One of the things is very important to understand, when you work in an area that's not in your community, doesn't matter you speak the language, but if you don't live there, you can't work there, in the sense that supporting the local community is very difficult to work by coming in as an outsider. So they will have to work with a local organization to make sure the support, it is done culturally correct, is done in a dignity way. So with this, quite often the local organizations are much smaller NGO. Sometimes they are just volunteer group. They are not even an organization. They are just people who want to help their community. It could be a church, it could be a school, it could be anyone who volunteer. So with that, it's very difficult to have a mature supply chain system to manage this. So quite often the food or the item go into the local organization. There is no visibility of who has it, how much they have, and where did it go. That visibility reduced drastically from the international NGO to the local NGO. So this gap is causing a lot of problems because the donors want to know what happened. And to be able to support people better, you also need that data to come back to you. So one of the pain point is emergency response is one-off. So here we have, earthquake. Okay, right away, people help. 3 months later, all the program is gone, is finished, done. After that is recovery, is funded by other mechanism, not this kind of emergency response. So it's a very short-term supply chain. So I always laugh about in Africa, every country I visit, I can buy Coca-Cola. No matter how rural the area is, the small village with very few people, I can buy Coca-Cola. I cannot get medicine. So it's a supply chain issue in terms of it's a short-term supply chain. Nobody want to invest. So that is the emergency response supply chain suffering. Everybody just want to get it done, so they don't have time to learn an IT solution or solution that's different from what they used before. So a lot of times it's using forms, paper, spreadsheet they made up. A lot of errors occur as well. Very low resource. In terms of human capacity as well, we're talking about people who volunteer. They have never, ever managed a warehouse before, and you're asking them to manage a warehouse. So they do not understand when the truck arrived, they have to count how many they unloaded, how many things, where they to put it. When they try to distribute to the people, they have to count how much they have and how much they have distributed and who receive it. So if they don't have that capacity, really understand how to manage a warehouse, basically this is where it gets a little bit difficult in the last mile. Very different requirement and priority for all the people involved. And you're going to find, local government want to get involved, the donor want to get involved, and the local community want to get involved, the civil society, they want to involve. So everybody has their own priority, and it also makes this operation very difficult to coordinate. And sometimes, you don't have the power, you don't have the internet, you don't have the port. I mean, all the ship arrived was the whole kind of supply to help people, but it turns out the port was operating 50% of capacity because it's damaged. So all the ship is waiting outside the port. And I can tell you sometimes the food just actually got basically destroyed because it expired. So you basically ship all the way across the ocean, and then it's sitting outside the port, and then it never get used because the port cannot handle the volume that's coming in. So there are a lot of issues that's involved, and also lack of visibility is a pain point that they have a lot of delay. They have shortage, and in the meantime, they also have access. They have things they cannot distribute because people don't want it. For whatever reason. I mean, I have heard there are a whole warehouse of shampoo. People refuse to take it because it was made by a particular country, or a water bucket that they will not use it, or nobody want to take it because it's the wrong color. Because certain color in certain country has different meaning, and they just refuse to use that color of the bucket. So there are a lot of those detailed things that people in the community knows, but how do we actually coordinate and be able to get that information? That is a challenge. So I developed this system, working very closely with an NGO, and mainly I'm kind of focusing on some of those needs on traceability, basically food going from the farm all the way to the community. We need to know where it have been. If there is a sub quality of food, let's say one bag was contaminated for whatever reason, they need to know who else got it and they have to call it back, just like we call all the products that has defect. So they need that kind of traceability to be able to make sure that if there's a safety, there's a risk, they can mitigate. Another piece is about coordination. A lot of NGO will go to the same area, try to work in that same region. How do we coordinate different NGO so we can actually support the people in that community better? And that is a big problem because every NGO has their own system or they don't have a system. So they can't exchange any information between them. Consider local capacity, local resource, and also compromise infrastructure. And also consider how I can make things more accessible and usable and also sustainable. Meaning, once you have kind of put in place, you don't have to be continually involved. This is one of the things I kind of take on as a researcher. I am not there to sell a product. I'm there to solve a problem. And I want the problem once it's solved, I know I have to remove myself. I don't want to be part of the solution. So I will introduce a solution, but they have to be owned by the local people and who use it. And I will withdraw. I will not be continuing involved. And I have done that several times with my system. So this particular system is not by design. It just happened. I can say there's a lot of luck in it. It's implemented in South Sudan, which is one of the poorest country in the world. They have a drought forever. So the hunger issue is tremendous. They have, I think it's 70% of poverty in the country. And also they have conflict, they have war going on. So there's a lot of support need to happen in that country. And this system is being used there to support the people, provide food from World Food Program. And the other one actually came out, as I said, this is just a timing. Ukraine war happened. This is almost past 3 years mark now. So when the war happened, a lot of NGO and a lot of organizations would say, we will provide services for free and stuff. So I also tell my partner, I say, if you go there, my partner is an emergency responder. So anytime there's a big disaster, he's the first person there because he's doing assessment and understanding exactly how it worked. So he went to Ukraine right away, and he this is a funny story. He basically showed another organization, not his own organization, another organization working in this area, and say, well, if this system is helpful for you, you can use it. So I'm going to set up a test account that you can play around and let me know if you have any questions. So he set up sort of like a beta testing for them to sort of learn about what the system can do. And we did not hear anything. And I didn't even think twice because, my partner go there, do their work, and nothing happens. And then a few months later, I was trying to do a demo for another NGO. I was looking at the data. I'm like, who is this? Because it's language, not English. And then it happens to be Ukrainian. And then I realized they are actually using it without telling us. They're good and bad things. First, I'm really happy that they found this useful and they just go ahead and use it. And also very good that they don't need us to teach them how to use it. They just look at it, look at the menu of the help online and they just teach themselves and then they start using it. So there are a lot of good things happens that we didn't know about. But what is problem with Purdue is they have to have some kind of licensing. Even I give them for free to use, it has to be some kind of agreement to approve by Purdue and so on. So to guess how long for me to get them to sign that agreement. They already use it, right? They're already using. I'm not going to pull it back. I have to let them use it. So that license took a year to sign. They basically sign what's already used. So it's not agreement for the future. But they're happy with it now. They actually pay for the licensing. They actually pay for the license to use. So that's something unexpected. But that particular system allowed them to coordinate all the NGO outside Ukraine and the NGO inside Ukraine. And they basically are sitting the border to transfer items among those NGOs. So they manage all the multiple NGO on both sides of border and really coordinate exactly what is needed and how did I actually get that all the commodities distributed. And this system is currently also being licensed in Caribbean. There's some islands they're using this to prepare. They train their staff so they actually have skill to manage a warehouse. And because they prepare for hurricane, that's pretty much an occurrence every year. So they just want to be ready. And so far we have on the record, this is 2 years old, over 1 million people. I think there are a lot more now, but I haven't been able to get them to give me the data yet to tell me exactly how many. So this is one of the work I was quite proud of. Now, based on this, next one is talking about even broader systems. So I'm looking at the system, first one is a healthcare with basically patient interaction. How do you do the infusion pump to manage the medicine, the delivery of the drugs, to how do you use the data and understand physical space and the gaps that the data really didn't tell you that what is actually correct. And the second one is really identify where are this pain point of this entire supply chain. Actually, it's the last mile of data, the lack of data. So I actually help them understand the environment and produce a solution that they can actually learn on their own. They don't need me to teach it. And they use it and they have, continue to use it. So those are the things sort of fall into the similar concept of how you use system thinking and understand the gap and provide the solution that can actually improve the overall system. Now, this last one, the example I'm going to give is about international development. Now, for those of you who are not so familiar with international development, I'm sure you're familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They basically will talk about no hunger, no poverty, good health. So basically, you talk about globally, how do we support everyone in the world so we can raise the standard so there will be no poverty, there will be no hunger for the world, right? So this is where the international really covers. So there's a lot of different areas that, some is related to water, some related to food, some is related to education. How do you create jobs? How do you, reduce the conflict? So there are many different areas continue to evolve. So this particular program is funded by USAID. It's a $70 million program. It's a very interesting program. You can see CRS is one of the partners on the bottom. That's my formal project partners. And the other universities are all Indiana-based. Purdue is a prime. Basically, we're the lead. Indiana University is Indiana, and University of Notre Dame is Indiana. So there are 3 major universities in Indiana, plus CRS, which is the Catholic Relief Services, it's the NGO, and Makerere University is from Uganda, so in Africa. So this is sort of the five organization as a consortium. And what we're doing is very interesting. $70 million for 5 years, but they extended to 10 years and then they cut it to 6 years anyway. So because USAID is kind of terminated. But this particular program is not about doing research in one of the things to solve problems. What the major theory change is based on the concept to say, if we can bring academia researchers and bring development practitioner, meaning the NGO, the people working NGO organization, bring in the policymakers, local government, as well as US government, and donors, people who actually give money. So if we can have a closer collaboration among all this entity, we believe we'll be able to use research as a vehicle to produce evidence so they can design the program better, and also they can set the policy better. So really evidence-based policymaking or program design. So to give you an example, what does that mean? Let's say there's an education program, try to help, actually this is one of the projects in South Sudan and in Somalia. Both of them has education needs because they have so much conflict. People move out of their home. They basically migrate to different areas. So their kids are out of school for a long time. So now when the conflict reduce, basically come down and they want to bring the kids back to school, you're going to have 18 years old on 5th grade or 3rd grade. So basically they're supposed to be in high school, but they are still in elementary school. So they want to do accelerating education to bring those kids to the level they belong. So they are putting the program, the NGO bid on it, and then they will implement the idea how to make that happen, right? So once they did that for 5 years, we will come in and do evaluation. We don't do program evaluation in terms of did they actually deliver the stuff. What we're doing is impact evaluation, meaning what happened after that program is done and after program is implemented. Where are the gaps? Where they have successful story, and where are the issue we have to address? So then the next 5 years of funding coming in, they know how to redesign it so they can cover those challenges or the gaps that they miss in the first round and also be able to improve better. So it's really using the evidence that what we learned from this 5 years to inform the next 5 years of budget. So this is a very interesting program, but to me, this is so industrial engineering. This is like feedback loop control, right? It's a system, you gather information, you figure out what is the problem, where is the success, and then you can redesign the system to improve the overall. So we're talking about this is not machine. We're talking about a society. How do you transform a society in terms of their education system? We can transform society in terms of how do they understand democracy better. There are many, many of those different projects is way beyond engineering scope. So for me, I'm learning along with my staff. I have more than 10 full-time staff working under this program, constantly working with US government, foreign government, where the program is going to be, and all the NGO that's involved, university involved, because another thing we believe that to build the capacity of the country, again, my thinking, I want this change continue to happen after this program, 5-year program is gone. So how do we think about a solution that actually could work if the program funding stopped after 5 years? They will still continue to make this movement forward. So one of the things we think is very important is to engage the local university because they are the one going to produce the next generation of leaders. They are the one going to produce solutions. They're the one going to care about the community they're in. So engage all the faculty in that area and from those countries is a crucial part to continue to sustain that change and not rely on US researcher to give a solution. They need to produce their own solution. So this is one of the parts that we did basically design the program. We give funding for initial project ideas and implement the project, but we have very specific design for each country that we have worked on. There are 50 research projects in 21 countries, and we have made 16 changes in policy and program design. Now, for those of you who have worked with policymakers, you probably understand to change any policy take years and try to approach from a research point of view, produce the evidence that actually could see the change is very rare, but we did it in USAID. And this is the country we actually have program in, just to give you a sense of where they're located. A lot of them are in Africa. So now it goes to the fun part, dancing. So I will talk about why I'm so intrigued about ballroom dancing. Ballroom dancing is a form of dancing that you have a partner. So it's ballet is something you have a duet. You also have like male female dancer as a pair. But ballroom dancing right from the start, even you're beginner, you will dance with a partner. This is a picture from Dancing with Stars, 2010. My team were on the TV show. Me and my husband on the outside. I'm over here. My husband's over here. We're the coach. So we are on the backstage cheering the team on. So those are the team members that actually be on the show. So this is I consider my second life. It's actually pretty significant, taking some of my time. I'm a social dancer to start. I compete. I find out anything I do, I like to compete in it because I recognize when I compete, I do better and I learn faster. And I'm just fascinated by the amount of knowledge that is in ballroom dancing. And I just love it. So I compete, and I was the second place in the championship in USA Dance when I compete amateur. And after that, I turned pro. And that's also a funny story because that year I supposed to get first. We're supposed to get first. We have to dance 5 different dance. The very last dance, my husband forgot the routine halfway through. So he was making up stuff. And I was looking at him and said, "What are you doing?" And the judge right next to us, we saw him change the mark. We are just his mark. If we got first from him, we will get first place. But he put us second, and we saw them, and we saw him change the mark, and we also know that judge. So we later on we talked to him and say, "Yeah, you kind of messed up." So again, after that we just turned pro because professional competition happen more often. Amateur national happen once a year, so we want to compete more. So we turn pro and do that. And then eventually we retire from competing, and we both are judges, and I also become chairman of judges. This is one of the national picture. I'm the chairman of the judges for that competition. So sometimes, I take things maybe too seriously, even as a hobby. To become a judge, I have to pass the test. The test I have to pass is actually study this kind of book. This is just one of the book. There are 10 of them. And I have to study every single movement, every step, what the foot position, what is the rotation amount, what's the partner position. Basically, this kind of book, the technical book, is written for Latin dance, is written by Walter Lair, a very famous Latin competitor who was a world champion. But what's important is he is a human factor engineer. So he is actually a human factor engineer, be able to describe human movements and then document it as a technique book. And that's how people are teaching today, is using that book. So it's an engineer who actually wrote the book in dancing, in ballroom dancing. So there's so much knowledge that I was just fascinated all the time. So I just love it. And this is my team, my family in a sense. There are more than 200 students every semester, every year, so over 100 each semester. We got new students every semester, and there's some people stay, some people graduate. This is after one of the competition I host. This competition I already hosted over close to 30 years now. And all my alumni will come back to help me to run the competition. So they will see each other. They also will help me. And the current officers and current team member, they can concentrate competing. So they don't have to work at the event. And this year particularly was funny. I was called by 2 people. They both want to propose to their partner during the competition. One of them did it after the competition. The other one did it during the dance. We're all like, what are you doing? It's a paso doble. And he actually proposed right during the dance. So it was funny. So they were this 2 couple in the front. They have kids now. So this is sort of I would say my family. So here's some of the picture. The left corner, this one is when I'm dancing amateur. The other photo is from when I dance pro. So this middle one, actually, I think it's the last year when I compete pro before I retire. That is probably 2016 or 2015. So it's almost 10 years now. So as requested, I'm going to share a video or two of my dancing, just for so you guys don't fall asleep. So let me see if I can do the share very quick. So I'm going to share with you, this is actually the last 2 years, I think 2 years ago. If you have watched Dancing with Stars in US, Mark Ballas is one of the very famous pro. I know a lot of pro in that show. We really like one of the routine that he did in the Viennese Waltz. So we actually used that routine, learned it, and then we performing for our student. Every semester we'll do this sort of a performance to recruit new members. So this is one of the clip I will share with you. Let me know if you can hear the music.
She'd take the world off my shoulders if it was ever to move. She'd turn the rain to a rainbow when I was living in the blue. Why then if she's so perfect, I still wish that it was you. Perfect don't mean that it's working. What can I do when you're outside in my mind? 'Cause sometimes I look in your eyes and that's where I find it. And I try to fall for her touch, but I'm thinking of the way said I'm fine, said I'll move on. I'm only here 'cause it's time in her arms, hoping to find a place.
Okay, so that is Viennese Waltz. Thank you. I'm going to share another one that is a little bit, let me see. Which one? I mean, this one is a cha-cha. I think it's also about 2 years ago. Oops. hope you enjoy that. Let me switch back to my talk. Yeah, so that's sort of my dancing clip, and I do this every semester to help the student recruit their membership. But so I think in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I have to prepare for another dance for this year. But why I'm so intrigued about dancing and engineering, because this had a lot of different parallels I observe. In engineering, I already see different areas from manufacturing, from healthcare, from supply chain, from international development. It's basically looking at a system in a different scope, but they all have very similar common elements. The system dynamics in it involve human processes, operation, decision-making, and execution. So there's a lot of common thing about dancing is also about two people working as a team. And how do you execute your own movement? And how do you send information to another person? And that person have to interpret it, again, as designed versus as received, and may not be the same. And how to quickly adjust and adapt when situations changing. And I can tell you both engineering problems and dance has environmental issue, outside uncontrollable variables, constraints, and they all have things is controllable and non-controllable. When we compete in dancing, they will be up to 20, 24 couples on the floor at the same time. We have routine that we choreograph and practice, but we don't know what song is going to be played. So we have no control of the music. You get on the floor, the music starts playing, you have to dance. So it's on the fly, interpret the dance, and there are many other couples around you. You may hit some other people, your routine may run into another couple. And so there's all kinds of uncontrollable variable. One of the funny story during one of the competition, I have a dress, the dress I actually show you the picture, the black dress is beaded. It has a string of beads. I actually hand sew them. I actually make that dress. So the beads are basically strings of all over my dress. There's another couple, her dress is net. The fabric is basically, like a fish net, but there's a huge net and with stones on it. We did a spin and we tangled together. My bead string hooked into her dress in a multiple way. So we were like dancing halfway. We both standing there. We cannot move away from each other. And her partner and my partner both are yanking our dress, trying to rip it apart, and couldn't do it because it was very strong, like tight, like really tight. So we basically stood there, tried to untangle for the remaining half of the song. So that was really funny, but that's just one of those moments happening in competition. You never know. That's uncontrollable. You just, have to take it. But engineering problem always have those uncontrollable things, like USAID. Well, who knows that it's going to shut down, right? Who knows that it's going to be gone? And a lot of stuff that we deposit to US government as all the report, all the data, that website no longer exists. So I don't have record of a lot of those things. So the link are all not accessible. So again, we never know. Another thing that's very interesting is looking at output versus outcomes versus impact. And this is also drive me in a different way of, output is about things you do, it's immediate count. And that's go back to what I was talking about earlier is how do you measure? How do you measure? Quite often are the things output. Sometimes maybe outcome, but rarely impact. So we are using that information to drive how we approach things. But the things we measure quite often are tangible, easy to count, easy to get. So give you an example. Education program, what would they do? What do they look for? The output they're looking for is how many kids enroll in this program. Okay, well, it's effective. That's not part of it. You did the work, and you wrote a student come to class, that's it. That is the output. But outcome is the student have to pass the test. They actually pass the test because the education actually helped them to go back to the grade they belong. So that is the outcome. But further down, impact's hard to collect because they graduate from high school, they get a job, they improve the economy. Those are the things are hard to catch, to understand the impact. So I feel I'm extremely blessed that my humanitarian supply chain system, I actually can talk about impact because it actually being used and there are many lives being saved because of it. So that is, for me, is one of the unique cases actually, it happens. And I feel I'm really lucky that actually can be documented. But those sensing and measures drive how systems perform and how we make decisions. So quite often, I see we didn't invest enough time to know what we are measuring and just take it for granted. And sometimes that is how I always say, every system works perfectly. If that's the outcome you're not looking for, I would say, look again at what kind of measures and sensing that you have put in to measure your success and the performance, because that drives how the system behave. So every system works exactly how it was designed in a way, because the measure we choose is driving that, even this outcome we don't like. Communication, trust, partnership is critical to solve very complex engineering problem. I'm talking about not just researchers, all the people involved, users, community, and all the organization. Some of them could be your supporter, some of them the saboteur. They don't like your solution because they have other way. Your solution actually push them out. Your solution actually get them, make them look bad in the way that they didn't perform. I can tell you their system I know is going to improve their performance and help them a lot. But the people who are on the line don't want to use it because you will catch all the mistakes that he had made before. Right? Because electronic system doesn't have that kind of tolerance. I mean, so they, things would just compute and automatically flush out some of the things, mistake that he didn't want people to know. But that's a part of the system, right? That's the human is part of the system. And how do we actually be able to gain the trust and build a partnership so everybody will be able to in sync in terms of alignment on how things can be done? So dancing is the same. Communication and partnership. I told my student, my team members, if they can survive the dance partnership, they can survive any relationship in their life, because dance relationship is the toughest one to survive. Asking the right questions. I think the gap analysis between dance and engineering, both a lot of this is all about identify gaps, how do we improve it, but it's come down to asking the right questions. Knowing the human behavior, decision-making in both cyber and physical space. And quite often, technology is only a small piece of the puzzle. There are so many other things have to really design. It's not just design the technology, but how to use it. How does that fit into the workflow? How do you actually implement? There's a lot of gaps there people don't think about. So solution of a technology, I would say that is not a solution. Technology is only a small piece for the whole solution. Same thing in dancing. Knowledge is not a solution. You have to learn, understand, and be able to implement it in your physical movement. And that still have a lot of gaps between. You may know what you need to do, but what you're really doing it is two different things. There's a lot of, we all have bias. I mean, every one of us has bias because we come from the background that we are from, the knowledge we have, the experience we have, we always drive to the area we're more comfortable with. So we always have this embedded bias that being aware of that is important. I don't think we can ever eliminate any of the biases, but knowing that we may have that bias, always double check on our own sort of view and listen to others. I think that's also very, very important. Sometimes it could be unintended consequences. Even if you have good intent, it could have a very bad outcome or bad impact. To me, a lot of my work is to support vulnerable population. So to me, the principle is do no harm. Having a good solution, having a technology, that is secondary. One of the things is if this change is going to do harm, I will not do it. This is also interesting. Optimal solution, I'm in operation research, industrial engineering is all about optimization. Optimal solution versus sustainable solution, I will go with sustainable solution anytime. In fact, I do not believe optimal solution can be easily implemented and sustained. Same thing in dancing. I will never use 100% of my energy, because if you use 100% of your energy, you cannot control it, and it's not sustainable. So you can only dance at 80%. Now, what you can change is change what 100% mean. So whatever I train to get to 100%, I can only perform 80% of that. So I have to push my 100% to be the next level. And that's how you get better for every single system. So you want to improve the capacity, it's not to approach 100%, it's to push what your 100% really meant, to build that capacity to be much bigger so you can perform in the 80%. And that's how you can sustain and have consistent quality and consistency. So that is my work that I'm happy to share, and happy to get any comments. And I know most of you probably have a lot of questions as well. Thank you for listening to me. And I think one thing I would say, I am extremely lucky that be able to have opportunity to work on so many different things. But throughout my journey, I have many cases that people say, you do what? Questioning my decision in terms of, well, why did you do that? That's like a career suicide. So, I do get some of the warning to say, stop, you shouldn't be doing this. But to me, I can see this is possible. I don't have all the solution yet, but I'm going to try. So I sometimes will jump without knowing there's a safety net to catch me, but I enjoy my journey. I mean, it's never a boring moment, I would say, throughout this all the different projects I work with. I can tell you the USID project, I work on that 6 years. I have averaged about 3 hours sleep at night. So now I'm not working on that, and just I finally be able to get enough sleep. But it's never a free lunch, I think. So, all right, I will get it back to Zhenbang. Oh, we didn't talk about how you know me.
Oh, do I have to? Can I?
Yeah.
谢谢叶文学姐哈，这个很精彩的这个分享，我听到后来都有一点像哲学了哈，这个各个工业工程可以跟这个叫什么国标舞是不是还是社交舞？对不起，这个不是我的这个 OK 我是怎么会这个找到这个叶文学姐来担任我们的今天的讲员嘉宾哈，是我们公司有人今年也像叶文学姐一样获选在美国工程学院的院士。那我在看那名单的时候，我就多看了一眼，发现叶文学姐的名字的拼音，诶，这个也不像一般的传统拼音哈，我觉得是不是我们台湾来的每个人拼音哈都不太一样哈。然后我就去上网查一查，诶，发现到母校清华的公共系曾经有这个叶文学姐的资料有登过，我一看这个名字好熟啊，然后我认出来这是我小学1、2年级 几任老师的大女儿。这个是经过了40多年以后其实我对英文学姐当时没有什么印象，我只记得她那个时候可能是北一女一女中只记得那样。我是跟她弟弟，然后跟她的小弟是同班同学，所以我就冒昧的这个跟英文学姐联络那她很爽快的答应了那我也透过她跟我小学老师在联络上所以这个英文有一个字叫 serendipity 就是不期而遇，这个真的是很奇妙了。我只是说，然后我们又是清华的校友，那我就很简单跟大家分享这次怎么找到我们这一位这么特殊的这个校友来跟我们分享。好，那我们现在是这个照相时间请大家把这个摄像头打开，然后我们等大家都上来以后，我们可以请昆山学长听昆山学长的这个 Q 他会跟我们讲，请大家至少对着镜头微笑，保持我不知道几秒，2到3秒或3到5秒
好，谢谢正邦大家把镜头打开，然后就正视前方，然后我们先拍第一张1、2、3，谢谢。因为今天还有大概目前大概有35位，所以还有第2张，我再拍第2张，大家也是看前方那个对OK smile， 谢谢。好，就这样子，谢谢大家。
好，谢谢昆山学长。OK，好，我把这个打回来然后
哇哦，好多人哦。
对，然后刚刚有一个很快进入正式问题之前，刚刚有一位校友在那边说问易学姐这amazing，然后他是说你到底有没有睡觉那刚刚您大概已经回答了，我就不
回答。Are you still recording?
Yes, still recording. 这是 official Q&A， 就是
official, OK.
Yeah,
SA official.
Yeah. To be fair， 对，因为他报名的时候就填了第一个就是我不知道这个会不会太家人，他说看过许多理论的运络这些可能是工业工程用的那他说工业工程 What's the future? Where's the future of industrial engineering?
Yeah. 可以用英文吗？
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Actually, those things we don't teach much in the current curriculum. Six Sigma, I actually asked my students to read it online, just learn it on themselves. Green Belt, we don't actually teach Toyota production system, Kanban system. I spent 1 lecture on that, and that's it. So the remaining curriculum you see is not about those actually is useful. I mean, a lot of organizations are using it. And so the student will need to learn what they are, but that's not actually the only thing about industrial engineering. I would say industrial engineering is all about how do we make things better, safer, and faster, and also cheaper. So basically, whatever you do, can you do it better, faster, safer, and cheaper? And that's industrial engineering. Now, how do you achieve that? There are many tools that there are different way of doing it. I can tell you, Purdue industrial engineering, at least, what I know, all our undergrad find jobs right away. They all have multiple offers, even when the economy wasn't that good. Our students have jobs. And I cannot say that for some of the other school. I don't know their stats, but industrial engineering actually is the one with the most diversity to work in any industrial sector. So any organization, industrial engineering has a role in it. If you have an operation, if you have an organization, then industrial engineering will be able to help. So right now, I already have a lot of students working in hospital. They are very high executive in the management role. A lot of them have different title. Some of them actually manage data science and so on. But that's just because we understand operation. So the data science actually is about asking the right question, what the data can actually do for you. What kind of question are you going to ask? So what kind of data can you actually gather that will be helpful to answer that question? So we have student working bank, student working agriculture company, seed company, working on their genetic alter seed, because there's all data about data and how to really understand the pattern. I have students working in credit card companies, financial industry, of course, in airline. That's very traditional. I consider airlines very traditional because all kind of scheduling is very complex. So NGO also have industrial engineers. Basically, if you want to be more efficient, more effective, industrial engineering is the subject. It's very broad. So I am not so worried about the future, but I have to admit that industrial engineering consistently still today have a crisis of identity. So when you say electrical engineering, people all understand you're working on something electrical. And when you say civil engineering, you'll understand it's about buildings and bridges and constructions. But industrial engineering is just not specific on what is called industrial. Actually, we'll go beyond industrial. We'll talk about government, we'll call NGO, we'll talk about society, the system that is considered a huge system. And that is still what is under what we can work on. So I think the identity crisis is continue to evolve, and I don't know how to solve that. Many very brilliant people try to solve that for many, many years, and we still continue to have that problem. A lot of schools changed their name from industrial engineering to industrial and systems engineering, including the society, the professional society I'm in. The Institute of Industrial Engineering become Institute of Institute of Industrial and System Engineering, try to bring the system as part of the sort of the identity that people understand what we're doing. But again, I think, Purdue still continue to use industrial engineering. We don't see the need to change just because that is going to add some elements, but we have different opinion. So that continue to be identity issue. So I don't deny that. But I think the future is very bright, especially I think when people start to understand what IE can do, they always surprise how much improvement that can be done in any system, even just to understand the problem.
好，谢谢这个，我想这已经回答 more than enough 。OK， 第二个是，请问工业工程最吸引您的地方在哪里？ Yeah.
Everything. I think the human components.
Oh.
I think industrial engineering, the most attractive piece that's different from other engineering is constantly thinking about a system that has human in it. And that brings the complexity, but also have the luxury, having human to be able to do a lot of things that's very flexible. And in the meantime, sometimes could be very accurate. If you look at, you could have vision technology to take a picture and analyze the pixel and do quality control, but human eye, you can just look at it and you're done. You know exactly, right? And you can touch and oh, this need a little bit more work. There are a lot of the sensing stuff. We try to duplicate it using machines. Yes, some of them can be repeated, can be done, but there's just so much that human can do that we have not even get close to what it is. So I think, when we talk about this AI is something we actually, in my dissertation, I actually do AI in manufacturing. So AI is not something just become useful tools now. It was back then, it can already solve some problems. But really understand what question you ask for the very complex system. Where is the problem? sometimes we spend more time identifying problem than finding a solution. Because once you identify a problem, solution usually is not very difficult. Usually it's the problem is hard to identify. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one, I think the English part and the Chinese part actually are different questions.
Different question. Yeah. No, I understand both.
Yeah.
I optimize my life. So how do I do that? Okay, so there's not dancing is not something I do just for dancing itself. It has to serve multiple purpose because I don't have enough time. So what does it serve? My husband is a dancer, my partner. So I dance and I teach with him. We go to competition together. We both are judges, and I'm chair of judges, and then he will do scrutiny. He actually own a software that do the judging system on the device. So we basically designed it in the way that outside work, if we go to dance competition or we coach the team, we do it together. So that's the time I spend with my husband. And I have my social circle based in my dance team. So that's my circle of, basically outside work. That's my friends. I still have a lot of friends are 30 some years. So we're still, get together once a year and try to call each other, check on each other. So I think it's and it's an exercise. So it serves multiple purpose. To me, that was great because I love it. And this is something also serve other purpose. So that's how I manage my time. I really don't have time to do other things. We also like to do escape room. I don't know any of you have done that. So when we do dance competition, we'll be visiting different cities. So we will go play the escape room in that city. So it's sort of one thing that me and my husband also love to do. If you haven't tried it, you should try. Escape room is a lot of fun.
好，谢谢。escape room 是那个中文叫密室逃生，是密室逃脱哈。对，这个
Yep.
美国这边也有呀。
Yes.
Okay. 好。All right. Next one, I think this is about 对不起，这个好像是跟工作有关哈。这个我不确定是。对不起，我们 skip 这个，因为这个是不太跟今天的主题可能不太贴切。然后 OK，this one probably a tough one. I don't know if you want to leave it after we start recording. 对美中台政经挑战冲击，这可能是不知道是从 supply chain 还是 industrial engineering 的
I don't know.
view. Yeah. If you want, we can leave it after we start recording. Or, yeah, because this probably 这可能有一点点敏感的内容。
Let's skip that.
Okay. All right. Okay, next one. 这个是 OK，这您大概知道哈，他说 supply a few waltz clips， 就是请您提供一点意见啊，这个是他某一位校友参加的 Stanford 这边 dance group 的，那我底下来放。这里。
So
OK，所以也不知道这个学姐有没有什么跟你做过？
我可不可以问一下问题？
请说。
好，那个我 supply 了几个，为什么选这个？OK，我想应该是您觉得最好的一个。那可不可以大概 critique 一下，说他们好在哪里？那然后什么地方是我们可以学习的地方？就说比较特别的地方。那然后如果说他们哪些 skill 是我们必须要学习，就是说在你们 judge 的眼光中，我们会学的，就是说必须去做的 perfect 的地方，就这样。
OK，好，谢谢。事实上我很不希望在这边critique，但是如果你真的要问说，如果this is more like a performance, like a social party performance, and I think they are competing, but it's for fun. So dance sport has a lot more sort of strict in terms of the rules and things we would like to see. A lot of technique that we teach or emphasize is more about, there are a few things. One is to look better, to the audience. Second thing is to protect yourself so you don't get injured. So there are different elements that it's just about, not just about looking good, but also protect your muscle and tendon alignment to make sure that your movement is not going to create injury in long term. So we usually judge in 4 different categories. We combine those in our head and then try to rank, this first place, second place. So technical ability, technical skills. This contains, timing and footwork and posture. I think I choose this couple because I think the posture is actually better than the other couples. When I say posture, is your dance frame has a particular structure, and when you are moving, your structure, it will change, but then you have to know how to recompose back to the posture. And I think they all kind of suffer on the posture side of it. But this couple actually, I consider probably the best. Musicality is the other piece, and I think this couple has the better musicality. They actually dance to the music, and they are finishing the movement in the phrasing, especially the girl. I think the guy didn't have so much awareness in terms of the musicality because I think he's very busy to make sure that the lead and making sure that his partner can actually perform. I think the suggestion I would have is that he need to dance. He need to dance himself when he's doing all this, sort of the leading movement. In the partnership, I also consider this couple a little bit better than others because they actually are aware of each other's the position they are in. So when they rotate and they are not breaking out of the frame that they have, and they be able to use each other as opposition to be able to finish the movement. She has a very good extension. So if you watch her dance, her arm movement and the extension is complete. So, if you extend the arm, she actually use her body, and also her arm is continue extension of her body. So it's not just like lift the arm or it's just having, some movement, but that's not coordinated. The other piece is an atmosphere, that whether you actually create a character of the dance that you actually presenting with the music. And I think they did a very good job to be able to do that. There's one couple I can remember, the music is much faster, it's more classical music, but their dance didn't really reflect that. So the atmosphere wasn't there. So that's, I would say, just a quick summary of what I would see as a judge. Those are going through my mind. I would say in competition, we don't wear skirt that long. This is actually considered hazard. So when I saw it, I was thinking, I'm going to bring a pair of scissors and cut all their skirt, right? So to us, that is way too long. If you watch other dance sport videotape, you will see that the skirt doesn't touch the floor. That's way too long. But again, their movement mostly going forward rather than going back. So for the lady, if you go back, your skirt's too long, you will step on your dress and you will fall down. and I've seen that happen many times. So yeah, so that's what I sort of a quick comment about this.
哇，太棒了，在别的地方都学不到这种东西的，谢谢。
太
谢谢
客气了，太客
易
气了。
学姐是美国国家认证的这个裁判哈，刚刚这个听了一段话，真的好像那个 Dance with Star 那个裁判的讲评，哇，真的今天
Well, I said it before. I love ballroom dancing because there's so much. I actually did ballet before. I actually performed ballet. And again, I started when I was in college. My parents didn't really want me to become a dancer, so I didn't have a chance to learn dancing since when I was kid. But I did ballet. I performed ballet, but that's individual. When I start have a chance to dance ballroom dancing, I just love this partnership that you can create so much more than solo. So that's also fitting to my theme of talking about partnership, solving complex problem. You need partners with a very different background, different knowledge, so you can actually have a better view of what the problem is. So ballroom dancing is doing that. The leveraging two people's power is more than two people. So that can create so many different image and movement that you will not be able to do by yourself. So I love it, can tell.
可不可以接着问下一个问题？那个如果说我想学2种舞，已经学了 waltz 了，另外再建议学哪一种？
Depends on what you want. I mean, what do you like to do? Social dancing, or do you want to, compete, or
no competition, just for fun.
Just for fun? If you like the music, I would suggest to learn West Coast swing.
Oh, okay.
West Coast swing is a very, very social focus. They also have competition, but you don't, it's a very different way of approaching competition. But they basically you can go without partner, and they will dance with everyone. The culture is you come with your partner, you may dance the first dance and the last dance, you may, but in between you dance with everybody else. So it's a very easy to get in terms of the community, and also the movement doesn't require some of those hip action that may create injury on your hip joint and knee joint. I think it's a little bit easier on the body. So I am doing West Coast swing as well right now with my husband. We do social dancing. So yeah, we always laugh about they can dance from midnight until 4 a.m. Their dance party is they start like 8 o'clock and they would dance until 4 a.m. And for me, and we do the competitive ballroom dancing, right? So we worn out like after an hour and a half. So our social dancing is like I'm just exhausted after 1.5 hours. I don't know what they were doing for this 6-hour dance, but that's sort of the culture there. So if you like the music, I think to me music is important.
Yes.
So find the music you like and see what dance that will match that also.
Wonderful answer. Thank you.
好，谢谢。我们最后一个问题，这个是刚刚现场问的。Okay, to what extent a model system developed for one camp can be applied to another? I think this would probably refer to the Syrian refugee camp.
Actually, it's a good question. It doesn't quite translate. There are certain things can be translated. For example, the supply chain humanitarian aid itself, because you're moving commodity, the logistics side of it. So that actually translates. But there are a lot of programming in terms of, what kind of program will work for one particular camp versus the other. That is very heavily involved in what is the people's lifestyle and the culture, the language, and their social structure. In terms of, what's the role of in the family of their structure and which one actually could work for that particular camp. but right now I don't even think that there are a lot of common stuff that actually being implemented by USAID for many different countries, although they will modify it to fit that particular culture and the structure of their system. So I think there are some are transferable and some are not. So it's mixed.
OK，
Do I ever sleep?
好，
Yes, I do. I do sleep.
好，谢谢。那最后我再把这个基金会的平台还有这个跟我们联络的资讯再打来这边，停留几秒钟，让如果您需要，请截屏哈。那之后我们就这个再次谢谢我们今天的讲员易玥文学姐，公共系84级啊，然后今天录影就正式到这里结束。